If you grew up playing outside until the streetlights came on, disappearing into the neighborhood for hours without checking in, you developed something most people today will never have. You weren't just passing time or burning energy. Your brain was quietly building a rare form of mental strength that psychologists are only now beginning to understand. While modern children grow up with scheduled playdates and constant supervision, you were out there developing capabilities that set you apart in ways you've probably never connected. What happened in those unsupervised hours shaped who you are today in profound ways. In this video, we explore the 5 rare mental strengths that only people who grew up playing outside until dark possess. If you've ever been called too independent or felt like you process stress differently than others around you, what you're about to discover will finally explain why. These aren't just childhood memories. These are psychological advantages hardwired into how you navigate the world. You have what psychologists call autonomous risk calibration. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you spent hours outside without adult intervention, you constantly made micro decisions about physical risk. Should you climb higher, jump across that gap, take the shortcut through the woods? Each decision taught your brain to assess danger independently without waiting for external validation or permission. Your prefrontal cortex developed the ability to weigh consequences and make judgment calls in real time. This might show up as your ability to make decisions quickly in uncertain situations without needing to consult 5 people first. You might find yourself naturally evaluating risks at work or in relationships without the paralysis that others experience. While your peers might freeze when facing the unknown, you instinctively calculate and move forward. This isn't recklessness. This is calibrated confidence built from thousands of small decisions you made when the stakes were manageable. Psychology calls this internal locus of control. You learned early that you are the primary agent of your safety and success. When others around you seem to need constant reassurance or approval before acting, you're drawing on neural pathways formed during those twilight hours when you had to trust your own judgment. That's not arrogance. That's mental sovereignty. You possess something incredibly rare in today's world, the ability to sit with understimulation without anxiety. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you played outside for hours, there were long stretches of nothing, waiting for friends to show up, walking between locations, creating games from scratch because there was nothing pre-packaged to entertain you. Your brain learned that boredom isn't an emergency. Your dopamine system developed the capacity to function without constant stimulation. This might show up as your ability to work on long-term projects without needing immediate rewards. You might find yourself comfortable with silence or unstructured time while others around you compulsively reach for their phones. You can sit in a waiting room without panic. You can drive without podcasts. You can exist without a constant stream of input. This isn't being boring. This is having a nervous system that doesn't require entertainment to feel safe. Psychology calls this distress tolerance, and it's become one of the most valuable cognitive skills in our overstimulated world. While others are caught in dopamine addiction cycles, needing constant novelty just to feel normal, you have baseline contentment. You learned early that your brain can generate its own interest and meaning. When others call you low maintenance or seem confused by your ability to be alone, they're witnessing a cognitive advantage you've had all along. You have exceptional spatial navigation and environmental awareness that most people lack. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you roamed neighborhoods, cut through yards, and created mental maps of your territory, you were developing your hippocampus and parietal cortex in ways that structured indoor play simply cannot replicate. You learned to navigate 3-dimensional space, remember landmarks, estimate distances, and find your way home from unfamiliar starting points. Your brain built sophisticated spatial reasoning capabilities. This might show up as your natural sense of direction in new cities. You might find yourself able to visualize spaces, understand how things fit together physically, or solve problems that require spatial thinking. While others get lost even with GPS, you instinctively know which direction you're facing. You can pack a car efficiently, rearrange furniture mentally before moving it, or understand building layouts after one walkthrough. This isn't just a party trick. This is a form of intelligence that translates into real-world competence. Psychology calls this environmental mastery, and it's linked to both confidence and cognitive flexibility. When you know you can figure out where you are and how to get where you're going, you approach new situations with less anxiety. You learn that unfamiliar territory isn't threatening. It's just unmapped. That fundamental trust in your ability to orient yourself extends beyond physical space into social and professional environments. You navigate complexity better because your brain learned that getting lost is temporary and manageable. You develop the rare ability to resolve conflicts and negotiate social dynamics without requiring adult intervention. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you played outside with other kids, there were no teachers or parents to referee every disagreement. You had to work out rules, resolve disputes, navigate hurt feelings, and maintain relationships through direct communication. Your social cognition centers learned that you are responsible for managing interpersonal dynamics. You develop what neuroscientists call theory of mind in high-stakes, real-world contexts. This might show up as your ability to have difficult conversations without avoiding them or needing mediation. You might find yourself able to read social situations, understand unspoken dynamics, and negotiate outcomes without authority figures stepping in. While others escalate conflicts to HR or management immediately, you instinctively try direct resolution first. This isn't conflict avoidance. This is social competence. Psychology calls this relational autonomy, and it's increasingly rare. When you grew up settling your own arguments about game rules or whose turn it was, you learned that relationships require direct negotiation. You discovered that people can disagree, work through it, and continue playing together. Your peers who grew up with constant adult mediation often lack this capacity. They've been trained to outsource conflict resolution. You learn to own it. When others seem conflict averse or overly dependent on third-party intervention, you're seeing the absence of skills you built during those unsupervised hours. You possess the ability to generate your own meaning and motivation without external structure. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you played outside until dark, no one was organizing your activities, tracking your progress, or rewarding you with stars and certificates. You decided what mattered, what games to play, what projects to pursue. Your brain's reward system learned to generate satisfaction from self-chosen goals. You developed what psychologists call autonomous motivation, where the drive comes from internal interest rather than external validation. This might show up as your ability to pursue projects without needing approval or recognition. You might find yourself working on things simply because they interest you, not because they'll impress others. While your peers seem to need constant feedback, metrics, and external validation to maintain effort, you have an internal compass. This isn't being aloof. This is having a self-sustaining motivation system. Psychology calls this intrinsic goal orientation, and research shows it's directly linked to long-term success and life satisfaction. When you spend hours building forts, creating elaborate games, or pursuing activities that no adult suggested or supervised, you are training your brain to find meaning autonomously. You learn that value doesn't require an audience. When others seem addicted to likes, followers, and external validation, they're revealing the absence of the self-directed purpose you developed naturally. You don't need the world to tell you what matters because you learn to decide that for yourself. If you've ever been called too independent, hard to read, or unusually self-sufficient, now you understand where that comes from. The truth is that those unsupervised hours playing outside until dark gave you psychological advantages that shape everything about how you move through the world today. You're not difficult, you're differently capable. These 5 strengths, sovereign risk assessment, adaptive boredom tolerance, spatial intelligence, social negotiation skills, and intrinsic motivation, make you rare in the best possible way. Subscribe for more psychology insights that explain who you really are and why your differences are actually your greatest strengths.